I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV for the week of September 7th. Got a giant stack of DC New 52 that we're going to get to, but I wanted to mention a couple other things that were worthwhile and worth picking up. This week, we have New Avengers, New Avengers, not to be confused with New Avengers, which happened not too long ago, annual number 1. And this is the beginning of a story thread that's been building for a while with Wonder Man saying that the Avengers have done nothing but bad since they've been Avengers, since they've been around. And enough is enough. He's out to stop the Avengers once and for all and builds his team of Revengers. They actually don't mention that in here, but it's mentioned somewhere, or maybe it's just my head. I really like this book. It had a feel. It reminded me of two different things. It reminded me of a couple really strong Avengers stories from the 80s. The Avengers Under Siege storyline, where the Masters of Evil trashed the mansion and beat everybody up. And then there was a two-parter in Avengers and West Coast Avengers in their annuals, where one of the Avengers betrays them. And it was a continuing story. This is also a continuing story. It is to be continued in Avengers Annual number 1. So if you're a fan of 80s style, cool storylines, if you're an Avengers fan, you definitely want to check this one out. And it's by Brian Michael Bendis and Gabriel Dell'Otto, who did Secret War. Dell'Otto's artwork is awesome, so you should check it out.
Next up, we got Spider Island, The Avengers. This is a one-shot tying into Spider Island, focusing primarily on Miss Marvel, Power Woman, Jesse Cage, and Hawkeye, as well as Frogman, who's apparently a part of the initiative. But I was actually really pleasantly surprised. This is written by Kyle Yost, and it's a very fun, adventure-y Avenger story. It's got focuses. One of my favorite elements is Hawkeye has developed spider powers, like a lot of people in New York with Spider Island, and he just can't get the hang of them. So there's a lot of comedic relief. It's definitely a tongue-in-cheek book, but if you like those characters, it's a wonderful read. And you also get to see Luke and Jessica's baby developing spider powers and causing trouble for Squirrel Girl.
Can't miss that. All right, I've been raving about Jason Aaron's run on Wolverine for months and months and months, and now is your chance to pick up the first trade. This is collecting issues 1 through 5 of the Wolverine Goes to Hell storyline, and is awesome. There's absolutely no reason why you should not buy this, especially if you're a Wolverine fan. Enough said.
I have a quick heads up. Thunderbolts 163 is the first issue of a new era. If you've been following the Thunderbolts, or if you haven't, in Fear itself, portion of the Thunderbolts kind of broke loose and ran off, teleporting with the mansion, and in this, with the mansion, the tower, and in this we find out they teleported back to World War II accidentally. So you've got Namor and Captain America from the classic timeline, and you've got some of your renegade Thunderbolts, as well as Luke and the more traditional Thunderbolt leadership trying to track them down, and it's just a lot of fun. Still by Jeff Parker. He's just been doing a great job since he took the book over.
All right, on to the new 52, 13 of them this week. Batgirl number 1 by Gail Simone and Ardian Syaf. One of the most anticipated books. It's Gail Simone writing. It's Gail Simone writing Batgirl. You don't need to know anything else. Static Shock number 1, Scott McDaniel, John Rosen. If you're a fan of the Milestone character, Static Shock, if you watch the cartoon series, if you like Scott McDaniel, this is for you. Batwing number 1. This is Batman's Operative in Africa, written by Judd Winnick, art by Ben Oliver, and this book truly surprised me. I was very pleasantly surprised by this, and it is absolutely worth picking up. Continue.
Okay.
Your turn.
Men of War number 1. This is another one that surprised me. I was expecting kind of a run-of-the-mill war story, but I very much enjoyed it. And Men of War is actually one of the $3.99 books because it has a whole second backup story containing different characters by a different creative team. And we follow the grandson of Sergeant Rock as he gets brought into the world of operatives, and it's quite good. Justice League International number 1, written by Dan Jurgens, which was really good. You get to see the assembly of the Justice League and kind of a who makes the cut, who doesn't, and sort of quick reviews of where all these different characters are at in the new DCU. If you're a fan of Booster Gold or a fan of Justice League Generation Lost, it's definitely worth a look.
Art by Aaron Lopresti, great stuff. Animal Man number 1, Jeff Lemire, Travel Foreman. This felt like a Scott Snyder book to me.
That's a compliment.
That is a compliment, and this is going to be a really interesting book. I think it's borderline horror right now. So if that's up your alley, you should check it out. Detective Comics #1. First time we've had a new Detective Comics #1 in over 70 years. And this is Tony Daniel doing writing and artwork. And this was another one that I was pleasantly surprised. Enough said. The big one this week, Action Comics #1, written by Grant Morrison, art by Rags Morales, giving us a more down-to-earth Superman, a more for-the-people Superman. I don't know if I like where that's going, but you know, this last week the book to buy was Justice League #1. Well, it was the only book out, but you know, if you only buy one new DC 52 book this week, this should be it.
We got Swamp Thing #1 by Scott Snyder, and I actually kind of enjoyed this. It takes a look, almost the entire book is involving, and I just blanked his name, Alec Holland, the person that was the template for the original Swamp Thing, and kind of dealing with being brought back to life and having these memories from a life he never really lived as the Swamp Thing. So it's very interesting, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Auken Dev #1, written by Sterling Gates, art by Rob Liefeld.
Rob Liefeld.
Whether you're a Rob Liefeld fan or not, Rob Liefeld sells books. There are still people that are fans of his artwork, and this was a very solid first issue. Liefeld returning to the characters that he first worked on at DC many, many moons ago.
Yeah, that one feels less like a reboot than some of the others. There's some subtle changing to the backstory, but as far as where they are, they're essentially the same characters emotionally that they were at the end of Brightest Day and in Birds of Prey. So it's a good continuation of the old life. And OMAC Project by some guy named Didio, Keith Giffen, and Scott Koblish. And this is OMAC Project. You've got a one machine Army Corps, is now what the abbreviation stands for, and it's going nuts out of, what's the labs? Not Star Labs, the other one.
Horizon? No.
Horizon.
That's
not
Marvel,
even-
sorry.
Sorry, Cadmus. Cadmus
okay.
Labs. And
Very Jack Kirby-esque art. If you like
Absolutely.
Kirby, if you liked his original OMAC stuff, you'll like that. Stormwatch #1, written by Paul Cornell, art by Miguel Sepulveda. Martian Manhunter joins Stormwatch. This is the beginning of Stormwatch. They're kind of doing a recruitment drive, and we see some familiar characters get recruited into the fold.
got Green Arrow by J.T. Kroll, art by Dan Jurgens. And it looks like he's seeing more history changing than some of the others. This is a very solid reboot and lets you know where the character is at in the new continuity.
And that's it for New 52. Great stuff. Man, we had to read a lot of books last night so we could do this. But stop in, check out the New 52, especially if you're a lapsed reader. If you haven't read comics in a while, now's the time to get back on board. If you've never read comics, it's very easy to get into the comic book world, and we're here to guide you. We're here to be your guides. Visit us in downtown Lima and check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/alteregomaniacs, and that's all I have to say. See you next time.